Yo, what's up guys, it's Demilich and welcome to my channel. Today I would like to talk about the abilities of the Necron Lord. I'll quickly go over each one, sort them by tiers and maybe share to you some hidden mechanics behind these powers. I hope this video will be useful and informative for both beginners and experienced players. Maybe you will learn something new or just refresh your knowledge, and that is the goal of this video. So, without further ado, let's begin. Alright, the first item we will look at is the Lightning Field. It will cost you 100 energy, requires Forbidden Archive, and like all other artifacts can be ordered instantly. It has a passive and active abilities. The passive ability as described reflects 90% of melee attacks at enemies. This reflected damage and 45% of Necron Lord's attack damage contribute to charging active ability. When it's charged, it releases a storm of lightning in a 5 range area of effect and deals 315 damage to everyone in that area. Also, you can activate it at just 20% charge. So, you might be thinking sounds good, right? But here's the catch. It's not easy to land this ability. The animation of activating takes quite a while, giving opponents plenty of time to simply step out of the area. Now, what do we have? Overall, this artifact performs well and is quite decent for tier 1, with a reasonably average cost compared to other tier 1 artifacts. It remains useful throughout all stages of the game and works well in many situations. However, in my opinion, there are better artifacts available. Nevertheless, it can sometimes be the only viable option, so I'm placing it in a tier B. It's fairly average artifact with some situations where it stands out as the best choice, so that's why it's going position B. Alright, next are the following 3 abilities, which we will be covering together. Essentially, they are part of a single skill set, and they will be estimated together as one and placed in a single position. Now, this little treat is going to cost you 750 energy. It requires tier 4 energy core and nothing more. This is the only ability that has a 1 minute research time, but once it's ready, you'll be able to activate it every 5 minutes, minus the 1 minute duration of the ability itself. So, let's dive into what makes this character. The Deceiver is truly unique. First, he is entirely immune to any kind of damage. While attacking, he reduces the target damage by 20%. On top of that, there is an 8% chance that the target will start attacking their own allies for 6 seconds. And there is more. His passive ability Dread deals morale damage 5 points per second, within a radius of 20. To be honest, at tier 4 it's not a big deal. Also, he can teleport like Necron Lord, but his real strengths, there are 2 standout abilities. First, he can convert enemy squad to your side for a full 20 seconds. That's right, those enemy squad are now fighting for you. And the second one, he can create a fake monolith for a whole minute. This fake monolith not only serves as a teleport point for your troops, but also throws the enemy units around and takes incoming damage. To sum it up, this is a very strong ability with the potential to turn any tide of the battle. However, True Monolith is still likely to be a higher priority for you. After all, the high energy cost and the fact that it's only available in the late stages of the game make make it somewhat less attractive. So, in my ranking, I placed this ability in position A instead of S. For an item to make it into S, it has to be flawless, and that's the single requirement for that tier. The Nightbringer. It's going to have the same stats, costs, and requirements, cause guess what? It's essentially the same upgrade, just the second part. So, let's start with the pros. Nightbringer deals insane damage to super units like high demons and high vehicles. He is also invulnerable, which is huge. On top of that, when he attacks any target, he can heal himself for 40% of the damage dealt. This is especially useful for the Necron Lord who is low on health before using this ability. Now, let's move to the cons. Nightbringer doesn't have a teleport like the Deceiver, which means you'll have to plan his positioning ahead of time. Due to his slow movement speed, he is easy to ignore by the enemy army. So, I'm placing it in position C. Why? Because in certain situations he can be irreplaceable, but these moments are rare. In general, the Deceiver is going to be much more useful and used far more often. Resurrection Orb. The cost here is 275 green and it requires a great summoning core. Also, it comes with the passive and active abilities. So, let's start with the passive. It grants a 25% chance for the fallen Necrons within 25 radius around the hero to rise again, with 30% of their health restored. To me, it's a straightforward ability, nice little bonus, no complaints here. Activating the orb does the same, but the radius is 26 and the chance is 100%. It can be used every 3 minutes and allows exceeding the unit limit by up to 4. Alright, let's summarize. For new players, using this item might feel like a way to delay defeat, but to really use it effectively, you need to have defensive artifacts that can sustain and recover your army. Timing is critical. Inflicting heavy losses on the enemy before activating the orb is the key. Without this, even a revived army may struggle to hold the line. I had to think carefully about where to place this artifact, position C or B. The high energy cost and the long cooldown almost put it in a C, but considering its popularity and relevance throughout the game, I'm placing it in position B. Personally, I rarely use it, but overall it's a solid artifact that worth considering for a strategy. White Slash. What makes it interesting? Well, first, it doesn't require any resources, you just need a living hero. As described, it pummels the ground and smashes the enemy target, knocking them back with a 20-30 force. And it activates once every 5 hits. Also, occasionally it even combines with the critical hits where the animation knocks back one or more enemies, just like the White Slash animation. My guess, either this ability and critical hits overlap or they may be conflict with each other. This critical attack deals approximately 250 damage to a single heavy target. But unfortunately, there's nothing about it on a wiki. So, I will treat it all as a one ability for simplicity. If you know how it works, drop a comment below. Now, let's talk pros. White Slash deals great damage to light buildings and can scatter enemy troops, disrupting their organization. Sometimes it can even knock away workers trying to repair buildings. which adds an extra layer of utility. Thanks to critical attack, the Necron Lord can even hold his own in a melee combat with other heroes, making him surprisingly effective up close. Cons: this ability does require control and experience. Sometimes it can backfire. It's especially tricky when you're trying to kill enemy workers because White Slash constantly scatters them, forcing you to switch to range attacks just to finish them off. So, with all that in mind, I'm placing this ability in position A. It's an awesome ability, but it's not without its flaws. Phylactery. The price is 150 energy, requires Awakened Monolith, and provides a passive ability only. According to the description, it absorbs 60% of range damage and triples health regeneration from 2 to 6 hit points per second. Plus, it triples the effectiveness of another artifact, which we will discuss later. On screen, I'll show you just how much range damage Necron Lord can endure before being taken down. This should give you a clear picture of its effectiveness in a battle. Add to this other artifacts and fatal attacks, and your Necron Lord becomes nearly immortal. There is absolutely no reason not to place this artifact in position S. It's incredibly reliable and always offers value. Since 70-80% of incoming damage is typically ranged, if you're not sure what to choose, go with Phylactery. It won't disappoint. Chronometron. This artifact costs 100 energy and has no significant additional requirements. Starting with the passive ability, it slows down enemy units by 10% within a 5-point radius around the hero. The active ability is slowing by 30% for 15 seconds and within a 20 range radius. However, keep in mind that the area is static and doesn't move with the hero. In early game, this ability can be a surprise for your opponent, mainly because almost no one picks this item. It takes a lot of effort and positioning to make this ability work. Here's the downside. Even the slowest enemy can quickly leave the area, so you rarely get the full 15-second duration. On top of that, the Necron Lord's White Slash can accidentally knock enemies out of the area. And since the Necron army itself is slow, you'll need to be very close to take advantage. But realistically, most opponents won't let you get that close. As the game progresses, this item becomes less and less useful. So I'm placing it directly in position D. The concept was good, but unfortunately it was never executed well. Sadly, I can't recommend this artifact under any circumstances. It desperately needs a fix. Teleport. This free ability requires no prerequisites. It lets you instantly move your lord up to 80 range every 40 seconds. At maximum cooldown efficiency, you can manage 1 and 2/3 teleports, meaning you can jump after reviving, then again 13 seconds later, and every 40 seconds after that. There's not much more to say here. It's a great ability that ranks at position S. It is perfect for outmaneuvering your opponent. Use it as often as possible to force him into reacting and making mistakes. Nightmare Shroud. The most expensive artifact, costing a hefty 350 energy and requiring Engaged Monolith Tier 3. When activated, it unleashes a devastating effect within a 50 range radius the Necron Lord deals 100,000 morale damage and forces enemy units to flee for 8 seconds. Even morale resistant units are forced to run. On the bright side, it has a relatively short cooldown of just 95 seconds. If you survive somehow to tier 3 and have a lot of energy, this artifact is worth considering. Use it to drive enemy troops towards you or activate it in the middle of enemy army. Forces to create chaotic movement, giving you extra time to organize and attack while your opponent scrambles to regroup. If not for its high cost and late availability, I would place it in a tier B. As it stands, it remains a tier C item. Powerful, but too expensive to justify the step investment. Phase Shifter. This ability is incredibly cost effective, at just 75 energy and no additional requirements. It creates a 10-point radius around the hero where all allied units restore morale, gain invulnerability, and regenerate 10 additional hit points per second. When combined with Phylactery, the Necron Lord's regeneration triples to 36 hit points per second. Another huge advantage is that the effect moves with the hero, so you're not tied to one spot. This is absolutely an S tier item, especially when combined with Phylactery. It's perfect for diving into combat, retreating safely, or defending critical objectives. Solar Pulse. The price is 125 and requires Summoning Core. When activated, it blinds enemies within a radius of 20, reducing their vision and ability to detect. It also disables range attacks, and within a 50-point radius it reveals invisible units. The effect lasts for 20 seconds with a very short cooldown of 70 seconds. Using it effectively does require some practice. The game's mechanics can be a bit buggy, and sometimes enemies can still deal damage or shoot through the effect. Position A feels right, but honestly, it's not far from reaching S. If this video were only about artifacts, I would say that the Solar Pulse would rank third among them. Finally, let's look at the Veil of the Darkness. This passive artifact costs 325 energy, requires engaged monolith, and what it does is that in a 20-point radius it clocks all allied units and buildings, making them invisible as long as the Necron Lord's health remains at 50% or above. While it's a pricey artifact, it can be extremely useful for defense, especially when paired with other protective abilities. Against Fraction with a bird detection, Veil of the Darkness provides a strong protective mechanism. However, one drawback is that once clocked units are detected, they take some time to become invisible again. Considering the late game availability and the high cost, I'm placing it in a tier C. It's a solid defensive tool with the potential, but its weaknesses prevent it from reaching B. Overall, when it comes to the artifacts, I always recommend to take in Phylactery and Phase Shifter. The rest are more situational. It really depends on your preferences and play style. And that's pretty much it for me. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment. If you agree or disagree with any of the rankings, or just want to share your thoughts. On this channel, I'll also be regularly posting tier list guides and streaming game, so make sure to stay tuned. See you next time.